The space above Earth was silent except for the slowly expanding clouds of metal and debris that had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Admiral Vextar was dead, along with every other member of the Zalarian Third Fleet. Not a single alien had survived to tell the story of what happened in the 4 minutes and 37 seconds it took humans to destroy them completely. In the command center buried deep under the Colorado mountains, General Morrison stood quietly with his staff. The main display showed empty space where moments before it had been filled with red dots representing enemy ships. The victory was so complete that even the humans who had planned it could barely believe what they had accomplished. Final casualty report, Morrison asked Lieutenant Amy Collins. Amy checked her communications board, scrolling through reports from every defense installation on Earth and in the solar system. 0 human casualties, sir. 0 installations damaged or destroyed. All quantum disruptor weapons remain fully operational. The numbers were almost impossible to believe. Humanity had just fought and won the most one-sided battle in galactic history. An alien fleet that had conquered 12 star systems had been completely annihilated without causing even a single human injury. Dr. Lisa Hamilton walked into the command center, having traveled from her Nevada facility as soon as the battle ended. She looked tired but satisfied. 3 years of her life had gone into developing the weapons that had just saved humanity, and they had worked even better than she had dared to hope. General Morrison, Lisa said, our deep space sensors are picking up interesting data from the debris field. The alien ships contain star charts and historical records that show the Zalarian Empire has been conquering civilizations for over 300 years, Morrison frowned. How many worlds have they conquered? Lisa consulted her tablet computer. According to their own records, at least 47 inhabited star systems. Billions of intelligent beings have been enslaved or killed by this empire over the centuries. The implications were staggering. The Zalarian Third Fleet had not just been another group of alien explorers. They had been the military arm of a vast empire built on conquest and slavery. Their destruction was not just a victory for humanity, but a victory for every species that had suffered under Zalarian rule. Colonel Pete Williams studied the alien star charts on his display screen. Sir, according to these navigation records, the Zalarian Empire controls over 200 inhabited worlds. This fleet we just destroyed was considered a small expeditionary force. Morrison's expression grew hard. Then the Empire will learn that attacking Earth was the worst mistake they ever made. Captain Steve Parker monitored the debris field from Luna Base, using advanced sensors to scan for any useful technology that could be recovered. The quantum disruptor installations were hidden and secret, but they were still human-built machines that could potentially break down or be improved with alien technology. Luna Base to Earth Command, Steve reported. We are detecting some interesting energy signatures in the debris. It looks like the aliens had some kind of long-range communication system that was more advanced than anything we have seen before. Doctor, Hamilton immediately perked up with interest. Can we recover any of that communication equipment intact? Steve checked his sensors again. Possibly, Dr. Hamilton. There are several large pieces of debris that appear to contain communication arrays. If we can get salvage ships out here within the next few hours, we might be able to learn how the aliens sent messages across interstellar distances. This was exactly the kind of thinking that made humans different from other species. Even in victory, they were already planning how to learn from their enemies and improve their own capabilities. The Zalarians had come to conquer, but they had inadvertently delivered advanced technology directly to the species best equipped to understand and improve it. Major Kevin Foster led the team responsible for analyzing alien technology. He had been studying the debris field since the moment the battle ended, looking for anything that might be useful or dangerous. Sir, Kevin reported to General Morrison, the alien weapons were actually less advanced than we expected. They used brute force approaches rather than elegant solutions. Their plasma cannons were powerful but inefficient. Their particle beams were accurate but slow to recharge, Morrison nodded. What does that tell us about the Empire as a whole? Kevin thought, for a moment before answering. It suggests that they have been successful through superior numbers and overwhelming firepower rather than superior technology. They probably conquer other species by bringing so many ships that resistance becomes impossible. This was valuable. Intelligence. If the Zilarian Empire relied on massive fleets rather than advanced individual ships, then humans might be able to defeat much larger forces using the same tactics that had just worked so well. Dr. Hamilton was already thinking about the next phase of Earth's defense. General, we need to start mass production of quantum disruptor installations immediately. If the Zilarians send a larger fleet, we will need more weapons to destroy them, Morrison agreed. Dr. Hamilton, you have unlimited resources and complete government support. Build as many weapons as you think we will need. Lisa smiled. With the alien technology we just captured, I think we can improve the quantum disruptors significantly. The next alien fleet that comes here will face weapons even more powerful than the ones we use today. Commander Bill Lewis contacted Earth. Command from his Antarctic base. Sir, we are detecting some unusual energy readings from the debris field. It looks like the aliens were using some kind of quantum communication system to stay in contact with their home empire. This was potentially dangerous news. If the aliens had been transmitting information about human capabilities back to their empire, then the element of surprise might be lost for future battles. Can we determine what information they transmitted? Morrison asked. Bill checked his instruments. It appears that most of their communication equipment was destroyed before they could send detailed reports. However, we did detect one brief transmission sent just before the flagship was destroyed. Morrison felt a chill. What did the transmission contain? It was Admiral Vextar's final message, Bill replied. He managed to warn his empire to abort all plans for conquering Earth, but he was killed before he could explain why. Dr. Hamilton considered this information carefully. That might actually work in our favor. The Zilarian Empire will know that their fleet was destroyed, but they will not know how we did it. They will probably assume we had help from another advanced species. Morrison smiled grimly. Let them think that. It might make them more cautious about sending another fleet. Captain Tony Blake coordinated the recovery operations from his Rocky Mountain base. Salvage ships were already launching from Earth to collect the most valuable pieces of alien debris. Every piece of technology would be studied, reverse-engineered, and potentially incorporated into human defense systems. This is Rocky Mountain Base, Tony reported. First salvage ships are reaching the debris field now. We should have preliminary analysis of alien technology within 24 hours. The speed of human response impressed even the humans themselves. Less than 6 hours after the battle, Earth scientists were already studying alien technology and planning improvements to their own weapons. Other species might have celebrated their victory for days or weeks before thinking about the next threat. Humans immediately began preparing for the next battle. Dr. Hamilton looked at the tactical displays one more time, reviewing the battle that had just changed the course of galactic history. In 4 minutes and 37 seconds, humanity had announced to the galaxy that Earth was not a target for conquest. General Morrison, she said quietly, I think we just became the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Morrison nodded. Good, it is better to be feared by our enemies than to pray for them. 3 days after the battle, the world had changed in ways that most humans were still trying to understand. The complete destruction of the Zilarian Third Fleet had not just been a military victory. It had been proof that humanity was ready to take its place among the most powerful species in the galaxy. General Morrison stood in the expanded command center that had been built in the days since the battle. The room was now filled with displays showing star charts, alien technology analysis, and communication intercepts from across the galaxy. Earth had gone from being isolated to being the center of galactic attention in less than a week. Sir, reported Lieutenant Amy Collins, we are receiving communication requests from 7 different alien species. They all claim to be friendly and want to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. Morrison studied the list of species trying to contact Earth. According to the intelligence data recovered from Zellarian ships, most of these species had been conquered or threatened by the Empire at some point in their history. Any of them offering useful information? Morrison asked. Amy nodded. 3 of them are offering detailed intelligence about Zellarian military capabilities. 2 others want to form military alliances against the Empire. 1 species is offering to share advanced medical technology in exchange for our protection. This was exactly what Dr. Hamilton had predicted would happen. News of the Zellarian fleet's destruction had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. Species that had lived in fear of the Empire for centuries were suddenly seeing hope for the first time. Dr. Lisa Hamilton entered the command center carrying a tablet full of analysis reports from the alien technology recovery teams. Her scientists had been working around the clock to understand every piece of equipment salvaged from the debris field. General, we have some interesting discoveries, Lisa announced. The Zellarian Empire is much larger and much older than we initially thought. She activated the main display screen, which showed a 3-dimensional map of the local region of the galaxy. Red areas marked territories controlled by the Zellarian Empire, while blue dots showed independent species. According to the alien navigation computers, the Empire controls 423 star systems, Lisa continued. They have been expanding for over 800 years, conquering an average of 1 new system every 2 years. Morrison stared at the display in amazement. The scale of the Zellarian Empire was beyond anything humans had imagined. Earth was just one small planet facing an interstellar civilization that spanned hundreds of worlds. How many beings are we talking about? Morrison asked. Lisa consulted her tablet. Conservative estimates suggest the Empire controls approximately 2 trillion intelligent beings across multiple species. Most are enslaved or living under occupation. The numbers were staggering. Humanity had just made an enemy of a civilization that controlled resources beyond Earth's ability to calculate. But they had also proven that Zellarian technology was not invincible. Colonel Pete Williams had been studying Zellarian military tactics using data recovered from their ships. He approached Morrison with a tactical analysis that would influence Earth's strategy for years to come. Sir, I have good news and bad news about Zellarian military capabilities, Pete reported. The bad news is that they have over 50,000 warships scattered across their empire. The good news is that most of those ships use the same technology. We just proved useless against quantum disruptors. Morrison felt both relief and concern. What about their newest ships? Pete checked his notes. According to their records, they have been using essentially the same ship designs for over 200 years. They improve their weapons and shields incrementally, but they do not develop fundamentally new technologies often. This was a crucial piece of intelligence. If the Zellarians were slow to adapt their technology, then Earth's quantum disruptors would remain effective against most of their fleet for years to come. Dr. Hamilton was already thinking about the strategic implications. General, we need to start sharing our defensive technology with the species that the Empire has conquered. If we can help them fight back, we can force the Zellarians to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. Morrison nodded approvingly. Dr. Hamilton, prepare a list of species that would be good candidates for technology sharing. We want allies who can use our weapons effectively, but who will not become threats to Earth later. Major Kevin Foster had been analyzing the personal records of Zellarian officers found in the debris. What he discovered provided important insights into how the Empire operated and how humans could exploit its weaknesses. Sir, the Zellarian military appears to be very rigid and hierarchical, Kevin reported. Officers are promoted based on political connections rather than military skill. Most of them have never faced an enemy that could seriously threaten their ships. This explained why Admiral Vextar had been so confident about conquering Earth. He had spent his entire career defeating enemies who used inferior technology and inferior tactics. He had never learned to adapt to unexpected threats. What does this tell us about their likely response to our victory? Morrison asked. Kevin thought carefully before answering. I think they will probably send a much larger fleet next time, but they will not change their basic tactics significantly. They will try to overwhelm us with numbers rather than developing new weapons or strategies. Dr. Hamilton smiled. That gives us time to prepare better defenses and to help other species prepare their own defenses. Captain Steve Parker had been monitoring long-range communications from Luna Base, listening for any signals that might indicate Zalarian response to the destruction of their fleet. What he found was both encouraging and concerning. Earth Command, this is Luna Base, Steve reported. We are detecting increased communication traffic in Zalarian space. It appears that news of their fleet's destruction has caused significant political upheaval within the Empire. Morrison was immediately interested. What kind of upheaval? Steve consulted his communication analysis. Several subject species appear to be rebelling against Zalarian rule. We are detecting distress calls from at least 12 Zalarian-controlled systems. It looks like our victory has inspired other species to fight back. This was exactly the kind of reaction that humans had hoped for. The destruction of the Third Fleet had not just eliminated one threat to Earth, it had started a galaxy-wide rebellion against Zalarian oppression. Commander Bill Lewis provided additional intelligence from his monitoring station in Antarctica. Sir, we are also detecting communication traffic that suggests the Zalarian Empire is recalling fleets from their frontier regions to deal with internal rebellions. Morrison smiled for the first time since the battle ended. So our victory is forcing them to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously? Bill nodded. Yes, sir. It appears that many species have been waiting for a sign that the Empire could be defeated. Our victory provided that sign. Dr. Hamilton was already making plans for the next phase of Earth's strategy. General, I recommend we immediately begin contact with the rebelling species. We can provide them with weapons technology and tactical advice. The more pressure we put on the Empire from different directions, the less likely they are to send another massive fleet against Earth. Morrison agreed completely. Dr. Hamilton, you have authorization to begin technology transfer operations immediately. Let us help these species fight for their freedom. Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Martinez had been analyzing the strategic situation from a military planning perspective. She approached Morrison with recommendations for Earth's long-term defense strategy. Sir, I recommend we begin construction of quantum disruptor installations in other star systems, Rachel suggested. If we can establish defensive networks around allied worlds, we can create a buffer zone that protects Earth while helping our new allies. Morrison was impressed by the ambitious scope of the plan. How quickly could we deploy weapons to other systems? Rachel consulted her planning documents. With the alien technology we captured, we should be able to build portable quantum disruptors within 6 months. We could have defensive installations operating in allied systems within 1 year. Dr. Hamilton was excited by the possibilities. General, if we establish a network of allied worlds all equipped with quantum disruptors, the Zalarian Empire will find it almost impossible to expand further. Every system they attack will be defended by weapons they cannot counter. Morrison looked around the command center at his staff, all of whom were working to turn humanity's single victory into a lasting change in the balance of galactic power. Ladies and gentlemen, Morrison said, 3 days ago we were an isolated species hoping to defend our homeworld. Today we are planning to liberate an entire galaxy. That is what happens when you underestimate humans. 1 week after the battle that changed galactic history, General Morrison stood before the most powerful communication array ever built by humans. The facility had been constructed in record time using a combination of human engineering and captured Zalarian technology. When activated, it would broadcast Earth's message to every corner of the galaxy with enough power to reach civilizations thousands of light years away. Dr. Lisa Hamilton made final adjustments to the quantum-enhanced transmitters. That would carry humanity's words across the vast distances between stars. The message would be transmitted on every known alien communication frequency, ensuring that every species in the galaxy would receive it. General Morrison, Lisa announced, all systems are ready. When you give the word, this message will reach approximately 2 million inhabited worlds within 72 hours. Morrison nodded, understanding the historic importance of this moment. For the first time in human history, Earth was about to address the entire galaxy. As an equal rather than as a primitive species hoping not to be noticed, the message had been carefully crafted by teams of diplomats, military strategists, and scientists. It needed to be strong enough to deter future attacks on Earth while being welcoming enough to encourage peaceful species to make contact. Most importantly, it needed to inspire oppressed species throughout the galaxy to believe that freedom was possible. Begin transmission, Morrison ordered. The quantum transmitters hummed to life, sending humanity's declaration across the galaxy at speeds that bypassed normal space-time limitations. The message would reach distant civilizations faster than any conventional communication method, announcing Earth's emergence as a galactic power in the most dramatic way possible. Morrison's voice, calm and steady, carried across the void between worlds as he delivered humanity's first address to galactic civilization. To all civilizations receiving this transmission, I am General Jake Morrison of the planet Earth. 7 days ago, the Zellarian Third Fleet arrived at our world demanding our immediate and unconditional surrender. They brought 847 warships and declared that resistance was futile. The message included detailed sensor recordings of the battle, showing the complete destruction of what had been considered one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. The recordings were edited to show the results clearly while keeping the exact nature of human weapons secret. The Zellarian fleet was completely destroyed in 4 minutes and 37 seconds, Morrison continued. Not one ship escaped to report what happened. Earth extends friendship and cooperation to all peaceful species who seek mutual prosperity and understanding. This part of the message was crucial. Humanity wanted to make clear that they were not planning to become conquerors themselves. Earth's message was one of defensive strength rather than aggressive expansion. However, Morrison's voice grew harder, to those who would enslave other species, who profit from conquest and oppression, who believe that might makes right, we offer this warning: learn from the Zellarian Empire's mistake. Any civilization that threatens innocent beings will find Earth a very unfriendly neighbor. The transmission included star charts showing the location of Earth, and detailed information about how peaceful species could establish diplomatic contact. It also included offers of technological assistance to any species fighting for freedom from oppressive empires. We have learned that the Zellarian Empire has enslaved or destroyed thousands of civilizations over 8 centuries of conquest, Morrison continued. To those species currently under Zellarian rule, we say this: your oppressors are not invincible. Earth stands ready to provide assistance to any people fighting for their freedom. Dr. Hamilton monitored the transmission equipment as the message spread across the galaxy. The quantum-enhanced signal was reaching civilizations that had never been contacted by Earth before, announcing humanity's presence to species that had never heard of the small blue planet in a distant, spiral arm. Within hours of the transmission, responses began arriving from across the galaxy. The first came from the Andraka Republic, a confederation of 12 worlds that had successfully resisted Zellarian expansion for over 50 years. People of Earth, the Andraki message began, we greet you as fellow defenders of freedom. Your victory over the Zellarian Third Fleet has given hope to every species that values independence. We formally request diplomatic relations and military cooperation against our common enemy. The second response came from an unexpected source. The Veltan Confederacy, a group of worlds that had been conquered by the Zellarians 30 years earlier but had maintained a secret resistance movement. Humans of Earth, their message said, we have waited 3 decades for someone to prove that the Empire could be defeated. Your victory has inspired uprisings on 17 worlds in our sector. We request immediate assistance with weapons and tactical advice. By the end of the first day, Earth had received over 400 messages from species across the galaxy. Some offered alliance and friendship. Others requested help fighting against Ilarian occupation. A few warned Earth about other aggressive empires that might see humanity as a threat. General Morrison found himself at the center of a diplomatic revolution. Earth had gone from being an unknown world to being the focal point of galactic politics in less than a week. Dr. Hamilton, Morrison said, reviewing the flood of incoming messages, we need to establish a formal diplomatic corps immediately. We are about to become involved in galactic politics whether we want to or not. Lisa nodded, understanding the implications. General, I recommend we prioritize contact with species that can provide intelligence about other potential threats. The Zilarian Empire may not be the only aggressive civilization in the galaxy. This proved to be prescient advice. Several of the messages warned Earth about the hegemony of worlds, an even larger empire that controlled territories on the opposite side of the galaxy. The hegemony had been expanding towards Zilarian space for decades, and Earth's intervention might accelerate a galactic war. Captain Steve Parker monitored long-range communications from Luna Base, tracking responses to Earth's message across the galaxy. What he discovered was both encouraging and alarming. Earth Command, Steve reported, we are detecting massive communication traffic between Zilarian territories and at least 6 other major galactic powers. Our message appears to have triggered a complete reassessment of galactic politics. Morrison was not surprised. What kind of reassessment? Steve consulted his analysis. Several empires appear to be canceling planned expansion operations. Others are recalling fleets from frontier territories. It looks like every major power in the galaxy is trying to determine how dangerous humans actually are. This was exactly the kind of reaction that Earth's planners had hoped for. By demonstrating overwhelming defensive capability, humanity had made potential enemies cautious about attacking while encouraging potential allies to make contact. Commander Bill Lewis provided additional intelligence from his Antarctic monitoring station. Sir, we are also detecting increased military activity in Zilarian space. They appear to be mobilizing a much larger fleet, probably planning a revenge attack against Earth. Morrison had expected this response. How large a fleet are we talking? About? Bill checked his latest intelligence reports. Conservative estimates suggest they are assembling at least 5,000 ships from across their empire. This would be the largest military force the Zilarians have ever deployed. Dr. Hamilton was not concerned by this news. General, 5,000 ships using the same technology we just defeated is not a significant threat. Our quantum disruptor network can handle 10 times that number without difficulty. Morrison agreed, but he was thinking beyond the immediate military threat. Dr. Hamilton, how quickly can we begin deploying defensive installations to our new allies? Lisa consulted her production schedules. The first portable quantum disruptors will be ready for deployment within 60 days. We can have basic defensive networks operational in allied systems within 6 months. Major Kevin Foster had been analyzing the strategic implications of Earth's new galactic role. He approached Morrison with recommendations for long-term planning. Sir, I recommend we immediately begin establishment of a galactic defense network. Kevin suggested, if we can link allied worlds with quantum communication and coordinated defense systems, we can create a civilization that no empire can conquer. Morrison was impressed by the scope of the vision. How many worlds are we talking about? The Starweaver dropped out of hyperspace with a sound like thunder rolling through metal walls. Captain Vexthal felt his scales shift color from deep blue to worried green as the ship's systems came back online. The jump had taken 3 days, and his crew was tired. They expected to find nothing but empty space and maybe a dead rock floating in the dark. Instead, the sensors lit up like a festival display. Captain, called Science Officer Zaraki from her station. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she read the data flowing across her screens. We have artificial structures on the 3rd planet, multiple energy signatures. This system is inhabited. Vexthal moved to the main display, his long legs carrying him across the bridge in smooth steps. The planet appeared on screen, a blue and green world that looked almost too perfect. White clouds swirled over brown and green continents. It reminded hymn of the peaceful worlds near the galactic core. "Show me the structures," he ordered. The display zoomed in, revealing what looked like a standard colonial settlement. Buildings made of metal and concrete spread across a wide valley. Ships moved between landing pads. Lights indicated where people lived and worked. Everything appeared normal for a basic farming colony. "Population estimates?" Vexthal asked. "Approximately 50,000 beings," Zaraki replied. "The energy patterns suggest fusion power systems. Technology level appears to be standard for a developing civilization." Tactical Officer Morden looked up from his station. His gray skin had turned darker, which meant he was thinking hard. "Captain, we have received a communication signal. Put it through." The main screen changed to show a being unlike any in the Federation databases. The creature had pink skin, brown hair on top of its head, and only 2 eyes. It wore simple blue clothing and sat in what appeared to be a control room. "Hello there," the being said in clear galactic standard language. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of Haven's Rest Colony. We detected your ship entering our system. Welcome to our little corner of space." Vexthal felt his scales shift to yellow, which indicated surprise. Most species reacted to first contact with fear, excitement, or confusion. This being seemed calm, almost like he had been expecting them. "I am Captain Vexthal of the Federation vessel Starweaver," he replied. "We are conducting a peaceful exploration mission. We did not expect to find an inhabited world in this region." Jake Morrison smiled, showing white teeth. "Well, space is full of surprises, isn't it? We're always happy to meet new neighbors. Would you like to come down and visit? We can offer you food, rest, and maybe some interesting conversation." The casual invitation shocked Vexthal. First contact protocols usually took days or weeks to establish. Most species needed time to process the reality of meeting aliens. They asked hundreds of questions about technology, politics, and culture. This human acted like meeting alien visitors was a normal part of his day. "That is very kind," Vexthal said carefully. "We would be honored to visit your colony. However, we must follow proper procedures. May I ask what species you represent?" "We're humans," Morrison replied. "From Earth originally, though that was a long time ago. We've been here on Haven's Rest for about 30 years now. It's a good world for farming and raising families." Zaraki quickly ran the name through the Federation database. She looked up with confusion on her face and shook her head. No records of humans or Earth existed in their files. "Interesting," Vexthal said. "We have no previous contact with your species. How did you learn Galactic Standard Language?" Morrison's smile never changed. "We picked it up from some traders who passed through a few years back. Useful language for doing business in this part of space. We're quick learners." Something felt wrong to Vexthal, but he could not identify what it was. The human's explanation made sense, but trained traders rarely visited systems this far from established trade routes. Also, learning Galactic Standard well enough to speak it fluently usually took years of study. "We would be pleased to accept your invitation," Vexthal said. "We will send down a small diplomatic team tomorrow, if that suits your schedule." "Perfect," Morrison replied. "We'll have people ready to meet you at Landing Pad 7. Fair warning, though. We're not fancy folks down here. Just simple farmers and engineers trying to make a living. Don't expect anything too exciting." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge crew in silence. Vexthal studied the data on his screens, trying to understand why something felt off about. "The entire encounter. Orders, Captain?" asked Morden. "Begin standard first contact protocols," Vexthal said. "Full scans of the planet and the colony. I want to know everything about these humans before we go down there. Should I contact Federation?" "Command?" Zaraki asked. "Not yet. Let us gather more information first. This could be a simple case of an unknown species establishing a colony in unexplored space, but I want to be certain." As his crew began their work, Vexthal continued to study the human settlement. Everything appeared normal, but 30 years of exploration had taught him to trust his instincts. Something about Commander Morrison's casual attitude bothered. Most species treated first contact as the most important moment in their civilization's history. They asked about Federation membership, trade opportunities, and technology sharing. Morrison had asked nothing. He acted like meeting aliens happened every day. Vexthal ordered the ship to maintain distance while they conducted their scans. Whatever secrets Haven's Rest colony might hold, he intended to discover them before setting foot on that peaceful-looking world. Dr. Kethara adjusted her equipment pack one final time before stepping into the shuttle. As the Starweaver's chief xenobiologist, she had participated in first contact with 12 different species. Each encounter followed predictable patterns. This one already felt different. The shuttle pilot, Navigation Officer Telvin, started the engines with practiced efficiency. "Ready for departure, Doctor. The humans have cleared landing pad 7 for our use." "Proceed," Kethara said, settling into her seat beside Tactical Analyst Morden. "Remember, we observe everything. Standard diplomatic courtesy, but pay attention to details." The shuttle descended through Haven's Rest's atmosphere, revealing more of the colony as they approached. The settlement spread across a fertile valley between two mountain ranges. Rivers provided water for extensive agricultural areas. The buildings looked sturdy but simple, constructed from local materials and basic metals. "Population density seems accurate," Morden noted, studying his scanner readings. "Thermal signatures indicate approximately 50,000 inhabitants, just as our orbital scans suggested." Landing Pad 7 sat on the colony's eastern edge, connected to the main settlement by a paved road. As the shuttle touched down, Kethara saw a group of humans waiting to greet them. 3 individuals stood near a simple ground vehicle, dressed in practical clothing suitable for outdoor work. The shuttle doors opened, and Kethara stepped out into Haven's Rest's warm afternoon air. The gravity felt comfortable, very close to standard Federation normal. The humans approached with confident steps, showing no signs of nervousness or fear. "Welcome to Haven's Rest," said a woman with short brown hair and weathered hands. "I'm Lisa Carter, Colony Administrator. This is Ben Rodriguez, our Chief Engineer, and you already know Jake Morrison from yesterday's conversation." Kethara performed the standard Federation greeting, a slight bow with arms extended. "I am Dr. Kethara, xenobiologist. This is Tactical Analyst Morden. We appreciate your hospitality." "Our pleasure," Lisa replied. "We don't get many visitors out here. Jake thought you might like to see how we've set up our little community." They climbed into the ground vehicle, which ran on a simple electric motor. As they drove toward the main settlement, Ben Rodriguez pointed out various features of the colony. "Those are our primary agricultural zones. We grow enough food to feed the population plus maintain emergency reserves. The climate here is perfect for earth crops." "Earth crops?" Kethara asked. "Your homeworld's vegetation grows well in this environment?" "Most of it," Jake Morrison answered from the driver's seat. "We had to modify some plants for the soil conditions, but nothing too complicated. Our agricultural specialists are pretty clever." The colony's layout impressed Kethara with its efficiency. Residential areas mixed with workshops and small manufacturing facilities. Solar collectors and wind generators supplemented the main fusion reactor. Gardens and parks provided green spaces for recreation. Everything looked well-planned and carefully maintained. "Your fusion reactor," Morden said as they passed a large concrete building. "It appears quite substantial for a colony this size." Ben Rodriguez nodded. "We built it with expansion in mind. Population growth, new industries, that sort of thing. Better to have too much power than too little." They stopped at the colony's administrative center, a 2-story building that served as both government offices and community meeting space. Lisa Carter led them through rooms filled with planning charts, resource allocation schedules, and communication equipment. "This is where we coordinate everything," she explained. "Work assignments, supply distribution, maintenance schedules. Running a colony requires constant attention to details." Kethara studied the charts on the walls. The resource management systems looked sophisticated for a simple farming community. The communication equipment appeared more advanced than necessary for local coordination. She made mental notes to discuss these observations with Morden later. "What about your manufacturing capabilities?" Morden asked. "We noticed several industrial buildings during our approach." "Basic stuff mostly," Ben replied. "Tools, spare parts, simple machinery. We try to be self-sufficient as much as possible. Supply ships from the home system don't come often, so we have to make what? We need, how often do supply ships arrive?" Cathara asked. Jake Morrison and Lisa Carter exchanged a quick glance before Jake answered. "Every few years. Depends on conditions back home and what cargo they can spare for us." The tour continued through the afternoon. They visited workshops, where humans built furniture and tools. They saw the medical center, complete with basic surgical equipment and pharmaceutical production. They walked through residential areas where families lived in comfortable homes. Surrounded by gardens. Everything appeared normal for a well-established colony, but Cathara noticed subtle inconsistencies. The medical center contained more equipment than a farming community typically needed. Some of the workshops had tool markings in languages she did not recognize. Most puzzling, several areas remained off-limits to visitors. "Those buildings over there," Morden said, pointing to a cluster of structures near the colony's southern edge. "What function do they serve?" "Maintenance facilities," Ben Rodriguez answered quickly. "Water processing, waste management, equipment. Storage, not very interesting for visitors." "And that area?" Cathara asked, indicating a section of the colony surrounded by a low fence. "Private residential zone," Lisa Carter explained. "Some of our people prefer more privacy. We respect their wishes." As the day ended, their hosts brought them to a dining hall where 50 humans had gathered for dinner. The meal consisted of simple but well-prepared food grown in the colony's agricultural areas. The humans seemed genuinely friendly, asking polite questions about Federation worlds and sharing stories about life on Haven's Rest. Yet throughout the evening, Cathara noticed how skillfully the humans avoided certain topics. When she asked about their journey from Earth, they provided vague answers about long travels and difficult decisions. When Morden inquired about their ship technology, they claimed to be farmers and engineers rather than pilots or navigators. "We'll have guest quarters ready for you in the morning," Jake Morrison said as the evening concluded. "Feel free to explore more of the colony tomorrow. We're proud of what we've built here." As they returned to their shuttle for the night, Cathara felt increasingly unsettled. The humans were polite, helpful, and apparently honest, but something about their answers felt rehearsed, as if they had prepared for these exact questions. "Your thoughts?" she asked Morden as they settled into the shuttle's crew compartments. "They're hiding something," he replied without hesitation. "I'm not sure what, but the explanations don't add up. Tomorrow I want to run deeper scans of those restricted areas." Cathara agreed. Haven's Rest colony looked peaceful and normal on the surface, but she had learned to trust her instincts during first contact situations. These humans were definitely not telling them everything. Dr. Cathara spent the morning reviewing her notes from the previous day's tour. Each observation led to new questions that the humans had skillfully avoided answering directly. She decided to try a different approach during today's visit. The shuttle landed again at Pad 7, where Pete Williams waited to greet them. He was a tall human with gray hair and calm eyes who introduced himself as the colony's external relations coordinator. Cathara found it curious that a farming settlement needed someone specifically for external relations. "I thought today we might visit our agricultural research station," Pete said as they climbed into the transport vehicle. "Dr. Martinez has developed some interesting techniques for adapting earth plants to local soil conditions." During the drive, Cathara began asking more specific questions. "Pete, could you tell us about your home system?" "We'd like to update our star charts with accurate information about human space." Pete smiled pleasantly. "Well, that's a bit complicated. Our navigation systems use different reference points than yours. The coordinates probably wouldn't translate directly to your charts." "Interesting," Morden said. Most spacefaring species use similar mathematical principles for stellar navigation. What system do humans employ? I'm afraid I'm not technical. Enough to explain it properly, Pete replied. You need to talk to one of our navigation specialists, but they're all busy with colony operations right now. The agricultural station turned out to be an impressive facility with multiple greenhouses, soil analysis laboratories, and seed storage areas. Dr. Martinez, a middle-aged woman with earth-stained hands, gave them a detailed tour of her work. We've successfully adapted over 200 earth plant species to local conditions, she explained, showing them rows of vegetables growing in carefully controlled environments. The key is understanding how the soil chemistry affects nutrient uptake. Cathara found the research genuinely impressive, but she noticed something odd about the facility's size. This seems like quite an extensive operation for a colony of 50,000 people. How many agricultural specialists do you have? Oh, we have several teams working on different projects, Dr. Martinez answered. Food security is very important. When you're this far from home, how far is home exactly? Morden asked. In terms of travel time, I mean. Dr. Martinez looked uncertain. I'm not really sure about the technical details. Pete could probably give you better information about that. As they continued the tour, Cathara began to notice a pattern. Whenever they asked specific questions about human origins, technology, or capabilities, their guides claimed lack of expertise and referred them to other people who were mysteriously unavailable during lunch. Cathara tried a different approach. Pete, we're curious about human culture. What can you tell us about your art, literature? Music? This question seemed to relax Pete considerably. He spoke enthusiastically about human creative traditions, describing novels, paintings, and musical forms with obvious passion. Other humans at nearby tables joined the conversation, sharing stories about their favorite books and songs. We have a small library here, Pete offered. Not much compared to what we had back home, but we've preserved some important works. Would you like to see it? The library occupied a quiet building near the colony's center. Cathara and Morden examined books written in human languages, studying the paper and binding techniques. The collection included technical manuals, historical texts, and works of fiction that provided insight into human thinking. Your literature suggests a species with significant technological capabilities, Cathara observed. Some of these technical manuals describe advanced engineering principles. We've always been a curious species, Pete replied. We like to understand how things work, even if we can't build them ourselves. While browsing the technical section, Morden found something interesting. This manual describes fusion reactor maintenance procedures that are more advanced than what your colony currently uses. Why maintain documentation for technology you don't have? Pete's expression remained friendly, but Cathara caught a brief moment of hesitation. Oh, that's from our old ship. We keep the manuals in case the information becomes useful someday. What happened to your ship? Cathara asked. Decommissioned years ago, Pete said casually. We salvaged what we could for the colony, but most of it wasn't suitable for planetary use. After leaving the library, they visited the colony's workshop areas. Human craftsmen demonstrated their skills at metalworking, electronics repair, and precision manufacturing. The quality of their work impressed both visitors, but again, Cathara noticed inconsistencies. Your precision manufacturing capabilities seem quite advanced, she commented to workshop supervisor Carol Johnson. These tools could produce components for sophisticated equipment. We have some talented people, Carol replied. When you're isolated like we are, you learn to make the best of what you have. What about raw materials? Morden asked. Where do you obtain the metals and rare elements for this type of work? Local mining operations supply most of what we need. Haven's Rest has decent mineral deposits in the mountain ranges. Could we visit these mining sites? Cathara asked. Carol looked apologetic. I'm afraid they're pretty dangerous right now. We've had some unstable rock formations lately. Safety protocols require limited access until our geological team can complete their assessment. As the day continued, the list of restricted or unavailable areas grew longer. The mining sites were unsafe. The communication array was undergoing maintenance. The colony's archive building was being renovated. The spacecraft maintenance facilities were contaminated with fuel residue. Every explanation sounded reasonable in isolation, but the cumulative effect made Cathara increasingly suspicious. No colony could have this many simultaneous problems affecting areas that visitors might want to see. During the evening meal, she decided to test the humans more directly. Pete, we've been wondering about your population demographics. Your colony seems to have an unusual number of people in excellent physical condition. Farming is hard work, Pete replied. Keeps everyone in good shape. Yes, but we've also noticed an unusual age distribution. Most colonies have more elderly people and children. Your population seems concentrated in the 25 to 45-year range. Pete's smile never wavered. We had some difficult years early on. Not everyone survived the transition to colonial life. The people you see now are the ones who adapted best to local conditions. Morden leaned forward. What about families? We've seen very few children during our visits. Most families prefer to keep their children close to home during the day, Pete explained. School activities, household responsibilities, that sort of thing. Colonial children have more duties than kids on developed worlds. These explanations felt increasingly hollow to Cathara. She had studied dozens of colonial societies, and none showed demographic patterns like Haven's Rest. Something fundamental about the human settlement did not match their stated origins and purpose. That night, as they returned to their shuttle, Morden voiced what they were both thinking. They're lying about something major. The question is what and why? Tomorrow I want to try indirect sensor scans, Cathara said. If they won't show us certain areas, maybe we can learn what they're hiding through other means. She had participated in first contact with 12 species, but none had ever made her feel like she was being carefully managed and misdirected. The humans of Haven's Rest were hiding secrets, and she intended to discover what they were. Morden waited until the humans believed he was conducting a routine geological survey before activating his deep scan equipment. The device looked like a standard Federation mineral detector, but it contained sensors capable of penetrating several kilometers underground. He walked along the colony's outer perimeter, apparently studying rock formations while actually mapping the subsurface structures beneath. Haven's Rest, what he discovered made his gray skin turn almost black with shock. The surface colony was tiny compared to what lay underground. Massive tunnels extended in all directions from the central settlement, connecting to huge excavated chambers that stretched for kilometers beneath the mountains. The thermal signatures indicated active facilities with their own power sources, ventilation systems, and what appeared to be manufacturing centers. Most disturbing of all, the thermal scans showed far more people than the 50,000 living on the surface. The underground population appeared to be at least 10 times larger, possibly more. Hundreds of thousands of humans lived and worked in the hidden facilities below. Morden carefully saved his scan data while maintaining his cover as a geological researcher. He collected rock samples and made notes about mineral composition. Acting like any scientist studying an interesting planetary formation. Meanwhile, his equipment continued mapping the enormous underground complex. The scope of construction amazed him. Building these facilities would have required massive resources, advanced engineering, and decades of work. The humans had not just established a simple farming colony. They had built an entire underground civilization. Interesting mineral formations, commented Ben Rodriguez, who had been assigned to accompany Morden during his survey work. Find anything useful? Standard metamorphic compositions, Morden replied, keeping his voice steady. The geological history here is quite typical for this type of planet. Good to know, Ben said. We always like to understand our local environment better. As they walked back toward the main settlement, Morden noticed details he had missed before. Certain buildings had heavy-duty ventilation systems that seemed excessive for their apparent purposes. Some structures showed signs of much more electrical usage than their surface functions would require. The colony's waste management systems were far too large for 50,000 people. Everything made sense now. The surface facilities served as intake and exhaust points for the massive underground complex. The humans had built their real settlement below ground and maintained the surface colony as a facade. That evening, Morden shared his discoveries with Dr. Cathara in the privacy of their shuttle. He displayed the scan data on his portable analyzer, showing the underground tunnel networks and facility layouts. "This is unbelievable," Cathara whispered as she studied the images. "How long would this take to build?" "Decades at minimum," Morden replied. "Possibly longer, depending on their construction techniques and available equipment. This isn't a recent project. They've been working on this for a very long time. But why hide it?" Cathara asked. "Underground construction is common for colonies in harsh environments. There's nothing illegal about building below ground." "Look at these thermal signatures," Morden said, highlighting certain areas of the scan. "These aren't residential or agricultural facilities. See the energy patterns? These look like weapons testing ranges. And here, these thermal blooms suggest heavy manufacturing, possibly military equipment production." Cathara felt her scales shift to worried green. Military production? But they claim to be peaceful farmers and refugees? Either they lied about their purposes or they've been preparing for something they haven't told us about. They spent the night analyzing the scan data, trying to understand the full scope of what they had discovered. The underground complex included what appeared to be training facilities, research laboratories, production centers, and storage areas large enough to supply a small army. The next morning brought new revelations when Morden's equipment detected unusual energy signatures from the restricted areas of the surface colony. The buildings that Pete Williams had claimed were maintenance facilities showed power consumption patterns consistent with advanced technology operations. "I need to get closer to those buildings," Morden told Cathara. "My scans suggest they're connected to the underground network through hidden access points." During their morning tour with Lisa Carter, Morden made an excuse to examine some interesting rocks near the restricted maintenance area. His close-range scans confirmed his suspicions. The buildings contained elevator systems leading deep underground, sophisticated communication equipment, and what appeared to be security monitoring stations. "Find anything interesting?" Lisa asked when he returned from his rock examination. "Just some unusual crystalline formations," Morden lied smoothly. "The local geology is more complex than I initially thought." Meanwhile, Dr. Cathara had been asking careful questions about the colony's history and organization. The more she learned, the more inconsistencies she found in the human stories. "Lisa, when you first arrived at Haven's Rest, how long did it take to establish basic infrastructure?" "Oh, we worked very efficiently," Lisa replied. "Everyone pitched in and we had good planning from the start. But surely it took years to build your fusion reactor and manufacturing facilities." "We brought prefabricated components with us. Assembly went faster than you might expect." Cathara knew enough about colonial engineering to recognize this explanation as impossible. The fusion reactor alone would have required massive construction equipment and months of work, even with prefabricated parts. The humans were definitely not telling the truth about their construction timeline. That afternoon, while supposedly collecting botanical samples, Cathara noticed something else suspicious. Many of the humans they encountered moved with a precision and awareness that suggested military training. Their casual conversations included technical terminology that seemed unusual for farmers and craftsmen. "Dr. Martinez," she said to the agricultural specialist, "you mentioned adapting over 200 plant species. That suggests quite sophisticated biological research capabilities." "We have some talented people," Dr. Martinez replied, using the same phrase Carol Johnson had used the day before. "What about animal husbandry? Do you raise livestock?" "Some, but most of our protein comes from aquaculture operations." "Could we see these facilities?" Dr. Martinez looked apologetic. "I'm afraid they're in a sensitive phase right now. We're dealing with some bacterial contamination issues that require quarantine procedures, another restricted area. Another convenient explanation. Cathara was beginning to understand that the humans had prepared answers for every possible question, designed to sound reasonable while revealing nothing important. As they returned to their shuttle that evening, both scientists felt the weight of their discoveries. They had stumbled upon something far more significant than a simple farming colony. The humans of Haven's Rest had built a massive underground complex for purposes they refused to reveal. "We need to contact Captain Vexthal immediately," Cathara said. "This goes far beyond standard first contact protocols." "Agreed," Morden replied, "but we also need to be careful. If the humans have been hiding this much from us, they might not react well to learning that we've discovered their secrets." Above them, the stars of Haven's Rest's night sky looked peaceful and distant. But beneath the ground where they stood, hundreds of thousands of humans were engaged in activities that could change everything. The Federation thought it knew about this new species. The question was no longer what the humans were hiding. The question was what they planned to do with whatever they were building in their underground city. Captain Vexthal studied the scan data that Morden had transmitted to the Starweaver, his scales shifting through several colors as he processed the implications. The underground complex beneath Haven's Rest was larger than most Federation space stations. The energy signatures suggested industrial capabilities that could support a significant military force. "How certain are you of these readings?" he asked Morden over the secure communication link. "Completely certain, Captain. I've run multiple verification scans. The humans have built an enormous underground facility that they've hidden from us." Since our arrival, Vexthal made his decision quickly. "Return to the ship immediately. We need to reassess this situation." "Captain," Dr. Cathara interrupted, "if we leave suddenly, the humans will know we discovered something. That might force them to take action before we understand their intentions." "What do you suggest?" "Let me try one more approach. I want to test their knowledge about Federation technology and capabilities. If they're planning something against us, they might reveal information that helps us understand their goals." Vexthal considered this. "Very well, but I want you back on the ship within 6 hours. And I'm implementing tactical alert status immediately." The next morning, Cathara requested a meeting with the colony's senior leadership. Jake Morrison, Lisa Carter, Pete Williams, and Ben Rodriguez gathered in the administrative building's main conference room. She had prepared careful questions designed to test their knowledge. "We've been thinking about Haven's Rest's potential for Federation membership," she began. "Of course, there would be certain requirements and procedures to follow." "That's very interesting," Pete Williams replied. "What sort of requirements?" "Standard things. Technology sharing agreements, trade protocols, defense coordination. Most new species find the defense requirements particularly challenging." She watched their faces carefully as she continued. "For example, all Federation members must maintain minimum fleet strengths and participate in collective security arrangements. The current standard is at least 50 capital ships and supporting vessels." Jake Morrison leaned forward slightly. 50 capital ships? That seems like quite a commitment for a peaceful organization. "Well, space can be dangerous," Cathara sighed. "There are always threats from hostile species, pirates, and other dangers. The Federation learned long ago that collective defense is essential." "What about species that prefer peaceful solutions to conflicts?" Lisa Carter asked. "Oh, the Federation strongly supports diplomatic approaches. But we found that negotiations work best when conducted from a position of strength. Some species only respond to superior firepower." As the conversation continued, Cathara noticed several troubling things. The humans asked very specific questions about Federation military capabilities, fleet compositions, and tactical doctrines. Their questions showed detailed knowledge of space, combat principles that farmers and refugees should not possess, most concerning of all. They seemed particularly interested in Federation weaknesses and limitations. Ben Rodriguez asked about supply line vulnerabilities. Pete Williams inquired about communication delays between distant Federation worlds. Jake Morrison wanted to know about conflicts between different Federation species. It sounds like the Federation has some challenges managing such a large territory, Jake observed. Every government faces organizational difficulties, Cathara replied. But the Federation has maintained peace and prosperity for over 3 centuries. Still, there must be species that disagree with Federation policies, Lisa said. What happens when member worlds want to pursue different approaches? These questions made Cathara increasingly uncomfortable. The humans were systematically probing for information about internal Federation politics and potential divisions between member species. Their interests seemed far too strategic for a simple farming colony. Lisa, these are very sophisticated questions about interstellar politics. For agricultural colonists, you seem remarkably well informed about such matters, Lisa smiled pleasantly. We like to stay informed about galactic affairs. Information helps us make better decisions about our future. Where do you get your information? You mentioned that traders visit occasionally, but this level of detail suggests more comprehensive sources. We have our ways, Pete Williams said vaguely. Colony life can be boring. We appreciate any news from the wider galaxy. After the meeting ended, Cathara felt more worried than ever. The humans had demonstrated knowledge of Federation affairs. That went far beyond what casual contact with traders could provide. Their questions suggested they were actively gathering intelligence about Federation capabilities and weaknesses. She decided to take one final risk before returning to the ship. Jake, I'm curious about your personal background. What did you do before joining the colony? Oh, various things, Jake replied. I spent some time in engineering, worked on transportation systems, did some project management. Nothing too exciting. What? About military service? Many colonists have some defense experience. Jake's expression remained neutral, but Cathara caught a brief pause before he answered. We're a peaceful people, Doctor. We prefer to avoid conflicts when possible, of course. But even peaceful species need to defend themselves sometimes. Self-defense training, basic tactics, that sort of thing. We focus on practical skills, Lisa Carter interjected. Farming, construction, maintenance. Those are the abilities we need out here. As Cathara prepared to leave, she noticed increased activity around the colony. More humans were visible in areas that had seemed empty before. Vehicles moved between buildings with apparent urgency. The communication array showed signs of heavy usage. Most significantly, she observed humans moving with coordinated precision that suggested military organization rather than civilian activities. Groups gathered and dispersed according to what appeared to be predetermined signals. Personnel took positions that would provide good coverage of key colony facilities. Is everything all right? She asked Ben Rodriguez, who was overseeing some of the increased activity. Just routine maintenance schedules, he replied. We're taking advantage of good weather to catch up on some projects. But Cathara could see that this was not routine maintenance. The humans were implementing some kind of security protocol, possibly in response to her questions about Federation military capabilities. She contacted Morden through her communicator. Are you seeing increased activity from your position? Confirmed, Morden replied. Thermal scans show elevated energy usage throughout the underground complex. Something has definitely changed since this morning. Return to the shuttle immediately. We're leaving. As they walked back to landing pad 7, Cathara noticed that their route took them past more humans than usual. Everyone remained friendly and polite, but she felt like she was being escorted rather than simply accompanied. Thank you for your hospitality, she told Pete Williams as they reached the shuttle. We've learned a great deal about your colony. Our pleasure, Pete replied. Safe travels back to your ship. The shuttle lifted off without incident, but as they climbed toward orbit, Cathara looked back at Haven's Rest colony with new understanding. The peaceful farming settlement was definitely not what it appeared to be. The humans had been studying the Federation just as carefully as the Federation had been studying them. The difference was that the humans had been doing it for much longer, and they had been much better at hiding their true purposes. The question now was what they intended to do with all the information they had gathered. "Captain," Cathara transmitted as they approached the Starweaver, "we need to talk immediately. The situation is much more serious than we initially thought.